a homeless cat beastkin girl, forced to trespass into the wolf beastkin's territory in search of a way to survive. She had originally only wanted to find some odd jobs and barely scrape by, but unexpectedly became the most beloved little darling among the wolf beastkin. The girl's name was Katia. Not long ago, she and her mother were discovered by other cat beastkin while stealing food. No matter how bitterly the girl begged, the others still insisted on driving the mother and daughter out. Her mother was even beaten by the others until she had only a breath left. Looking at her weak mother in her arms, Tia burst into tears, completely at a loss. And her mother also understood that she did not have much time left. Using the last of her strength, she told Tia that she actually possessed a special ability. After saying this, the cat mother completely lost her breath. Holding her mother's body, Tia was overwhelmed with grief. Clearly, she and her mother had only wanted to stay alive, so why did their family have to suffer such a disaster? Tia dug a pit, buried her mother, and sat alone before her grave, sobbing softly. Now, not only her brother and father, but even her mother had failed to escape tragedy. Carrying the determination to avenge her family, Tia left the cat's territory, but she also did not know where she should go. Just then, a group suddenly appeared before her. It turned out to be wolf beastkin from nearby who had mistakenly entered the cat beastkin's territory. Tia immediately got an idea. In her current state, she probably looked no different from a wolf pup, because her mother had once said that most small animals looked pretty much the same when they were young. Before their obvious features appeared, they could only be distinguished by fur color. Besides, the Gray wolf family, who ruled over the wolves' lands, was extremely wealthy and also quite tolerant toward other wolves. At this moment, inside the Gray wolf household, the two wolf boys who had just returned home were feeling terribly bored. They had only played outside for a little while before being dragged back home. There was nothing else fun in the house either. Just then, a knock sounded at the door. The two boys poked their heads out the door but did not see a single person. Only when they looked down did they realize that a tiny girl was standing at the door. "Excuse me, is this the Gray wolf house? I heard the Gray wolves give work to pitiful homeless wolves." After getting confirmation from the two boys, Tia happily perked up her ears. Little did she know that the cat smell on her body had long since exposed her identity. But the two boys still invited Tia inside. After entering, the girl inexplicably stretched out both hands toward them. It turned out this meant "please take care of me." Although shaking hands with both hands was a little strange, the two still did it. The instant they touched Tia's little hands, a soft, fluffy sensation instantly rushed into their brains. Because it felt so comfortable, the two held Tia's little hands and touched them for quite a while. The brothers could not help sighing that cat beastkin really did have soft bodies. Meanwhile, Tia thought her disguise was flawless. After entering the house, the two led Tia by the hand and introduced the interior to her. The various luxurious decorations and lamps, as well as the graceful maids and attendants, made Tia feel inferior, as though she did not belong in this magnificent mansion at all. But the girl still tried hard to encourage herself, because her mother had once said that she was a cat as strong as a wolf. Noticing that something seemed off with Tia, the wolf boys asked whether she was feeling unwell somewhere. Just then, Tia's stomach let out a rumble. Afraid of being driven away, the girl desperately explained that she had not eaten for several days, but normally one meal a day was already enough for her. Hearing this, the two brothers could not help feeling puzzled. Why only one meal a day? And why exactly had Tia come here? After learning that Tia was the only one left in her family, the brothers found a blanket and wrapped her up in it. Then they brought her to the dining room. Before eating, the boys first asked for Tia's full name. Seeing the troubled look on the girl's face, the brothers changed the way they asked. "So what should we call you?" Tia stretched out her hand and said that her nickname was Lil Soft, because her hands were especially soft. After hearing that, both boys could not help laughing. Tia thought she was being looked down on, and hurriedly said that she was actually very capable and had already started working since she was little. Next, the two boys also introduced themselves. The one on the left with sleek fur was the older brother, Theo, and the one on the right with rough, messy hair was the younger brother, Devin. And the person Tia was looking for was exactly their father. The girl was instantly startled. Seeing her reaction, the younger brother Devin joked that everyone here was a wolf, so what was there to be surprised about? Hearing this, Tia was so frightened that she involuntarily extended her claws. Had her identity as a cat already been exposed? The two brothers did not intend to make things awkward for Tia, and both shifted their gaze elsewhere. Seizing the chance, Tia quickly poked at the table and retracted her claws. Soon afterward, the dishes were brought out one after another. A whole table full of delicious food made the girl's eyes shine brightly. It made the girl's eyes shine brightly. "What would you like to eat first?" The girl stretched out her little hand, and in the end chose a plate of fish. Theo immediately mocked Devin, saying that he had guessed right after all. Wolf cubs really did pick fish first. This was Tia's first time eating something so delicious. She had never imagined there could be food this tasty in the world. Before she realized it, Tia's ears had perked up, and her tail had also come out. At that moment, the girl suddenly became alert. Cat and wolf tails were not quite the same, and if she were discovered, the consequences would be unthinkable. She immediately hid her tail. She worried whether someone might see her ugly tail once, part of it had been bitten off. Theo stared at Tia without saying a word. Then he started discussing with Devin where Tia should go now. By now, everyone in the mansion probably already knew that Tia was a cat. If we are not by her side, she might get bullied. So the two of them thought of the same answer at the same time. At this point, Tia still thought that her identity had been exposed and that she was about to be eaten. But in fact, the brothers wanted to adopt Tia and make her their little sister. After all, their father was the leader of the wolf clan, and to get dad to adopt Tia, they only needed to persuade mom first. They had both seen the things their mother secretly kept hidden, so they believed that once she had a daughter, she would definitely be very happy. Tia was puzzled about why they were staring at her like that. Theo explained that they simply thought Tia looked cute when her ears stood up while she ate. Wasn't everyone like that? Tia's question made the brothers fall silent for a few seconds. Then they nodded and admitted that they had indeed been like that when they were little, but now that they had grown up, they had long forgotten. After receiving confirmation, Tia finally let down her guard. At this moment, Theo proposed that he wanted to touch Lil Soft's ears. Although the request was somewhat rude, Tia still agreed, considering how friendly his attitude was. The instant he touched Tia's ears, Theo felt so comfortable that his whole body nearly melted. Seeing his older brother's perverted expression, Devin also could not help becoming curious about it. Then, he too was thoroughly overwhelmed by the same pleasure. After that, while rubbing her ears, the two brothers kept asking the attendants when their father and mother would return. At this moment, all they wanted was to settle Tia's household registration issue as soon as possible. At this time, Tia asked about their father. Theo and Devin's father was named Zakar, the strongest being among the wolves. Although his expression looked frightening, he loved his family very much. Many leopard beastkin would turn pale with fear on the spot as soon as they heard their father's name. Seeing that Tia had also been badly frightened, Theo then talked about their mother, Karis. She was a werewolf who had come from being the captain of the knights, and she had always wanted a daughter. Just as Tia was feeling confused, Theo extended an invitation to her. Anyway, you're still young and have nowhere to go, so how about becoming our family? Tia understood that as long as she agreed, she would receive protection. But just as she was hesitating, Zakar returned. Theo directly picked Tia up and ran to the doorway together with Devin. When she saw Zakar's gaze, the girl trembled all over in fear. She shakily greeted him, saying that she was a strong little wolf named Katia. She had heard that Lord Grywolf would arrange work for pitiful homeless wolves. Although Zakar was full of doubts, he still took Tia's little hand. He told Tia that she was still too young and was not suited for work. When the time came, he would arrange for Tia to live in the territory of the small animals. As soon as the two brothers heard this, they immediately stopped their father and tried to persuade him, saying that although Lil Soft was young, when she grew up a bit, she would become a scary wolf beastkin and might frighten those little animals. The more Zakar listened, the more confused he became. But seeing Tia's little self-confident appearance, he ultimately could not bring himself to ruthlessly expose the lie on the spot. Then the two brothers began persuading their father again to adopt Tia. But this time, no matter what, Zakar refused. Just when the girl thought she was about to be driven out, a woman behind her suddenly lifted the blanket covering her. This person was none other than the brothers' mother, Karis. When she saw Tia, she could not help voicing her confusion. Why is there a little girl in our house? Tia trembled with fright. At this moment, Theo and Devin took Tia's hands and explained to their mother that Tia was a strong little wolf who had come here because she had heard that they gave work to other wolves. Tia also gathered her courage and stretched out her little hand to greet Karis. Although Karis responded as well, the expression on her face seemed to carry a faint trace of dislike. Tia did not want to be driven away just like that, so she said that she could sing and could make Madam feel better. If Madam did not want to see me, you can also arrange for me to clean chimneys. Please let me stay here and work, moo moo. I promise I will not appear before you. Seeing Tia cry harder and harder, Karis crouched down and comforted her, telling her to wipe away her tears first and then go take a proper bath. The Tia who had just relaxed instantly became so nervous that she nearly lost her soul. After arriving at the bathroom, Tia first greeted the maid who was helping her bathe, saying that she was the little wolf Katia who had just come here to work. The maid, Gray, told Tia that Madam was actually a very gentle person. She had even provided this slow old woman with a job. Afterward, Tia said that she could bathe by herself and only dab some water on her face with her hand. But Gray absolutely would not allow such cat-style face washing to appear before her. She bent down and began helping Tia take off her clothes. That piece of clothing was far too old and tattered to keep wearing. Just as Gray was about to throw it away, Tia asked her to at least leave her one button. While combing Tia's hair, Gray learned that the girl's entire luggage was actually only that one piece of clothing. This inevitably put her in a bit of a difficult position, because the young masters had specifically instructed her to leave a room and a large wardrobe for Tia. A room and a large wardrobe. Then Gray carried Tia into the bathtub. The moment she touched the water, the girl almost had a stress reaction. There were still some small wounds on her body, and they kept stinging painfully. At that moment, the smell on Tia's body drew Gray's attention. The girl hurriedly hid her tail and claimed it was only because she had not bathed for too long. Suddenly, A duck toy floated over in the bathtub. This was something Tia had fought to get from Madame Karis not long before. With the duck toy, the girl finally managed to finish her bath peacefully. After changing into the new clothes Karis had prepared, Tia instantly changed from a dirty little pitiful thing into a delicate little princess. Just then, Grace suddenly leaned close to Tia's face, and the girl thought that her identity had been exposed. However, Gray merely praised her, saying that Tia's eyes were very beautiful. Tia explained that perhaps it was because her birthplace was rather remote, while Gray helped tend to her wounds. The girl could not help remembering that her mother had once said that the color of her eyes was as clear as grasslands and lake water. Because Tia's hair was very thick, Gray guessed that she had probably lived in the cold northern regions before, but Tia did not know exactly where. She only remembered that the wind outside had been very strong, and there was never enough firewood at home. Hearing this, Gray immediately began to feel tender affection toward Tia. After finally helping Tia get cleaned up before leaving, Gray gently pressed against the girl's forehead and hoped that she would find a decent job. In the spacious room, Tia was suddenly the only one left. When she saw the soft, fluffy big bed not far away, the girl felt an itch in her heart. She pattered toward the bed. Just then, the girl was suddenly captivated by her reflection in the mirror. No matter how she looked at it, her current hair color did not look like that of a wolf. After looking around, she discovered a stack of towels. The girl immediately wrapped the towels around her head. Then she revealed those 2 ears that Theo and Devin had once approved of. Next, Tia placed the button from her clothes underneath the pillow. Lying down comfortably, her whole body relaxed. She thought that it would be nice if she could stay here for a few days. Unfortunately, Zakar and Karis did not seem to like her very much. Thinking of this, she climbed down from the bed. She decided to go beg them one more time. At the same time, Karis was questioning the 2 brothers about what exactly was going on. But the 2 brothers were still grinning and joking around, thinking that having a cute little sister would make life in the mansion livelier and more harmonious. After hearing this, Karis immediately felt deeply troubled. She was very angry that Theo and Devin could say something so irresponsible so casually. You should know that 12 years ago, the blue moon, which had existed only in creation myths, suddenly appeared in leopard territory. Countless leopards rushed over after hearing that an object of the goddess had appeared in the world. And that was exactly the beginning of the disaster. The magic contained within the blue moon would cause beastkin to completely lose their reason. They would go mad in beast form all over the land. Now, the leopards occupying the blue moon had already conducted several experiments, attempting to drag other races into it as well. If chaos were to break out inside wolf territory too, then no matter who it was, no one could guarantee a cat's safety. But Dad just admitted that Tia is a wolf. Karis's anger frightened Zakar so much that he did not dare speak. But in his heart, he knew very well that his wife was simply worried about Tia's safety. On the night the blue moon erupted, he and his wife had also fought for an entire night. And among their 3 children, one had not escaped tragedy. Under the pressure of the enemy, the 2 could only bury their deceased child on the spot. Even today, Karis still felt guilty about it. Just then, Zakar discovered Tia asleep at the doorway. Whenever Karis saw a little girl, she could not help thinking of her dead child. But that did not mean she would stand by and do nothing for Tia. She decided to become Tia's temporary family first. She would protect her all the time until she could live independently. The next day, Tia woke up happily from the mat. As soon as she opened her eyes, she saw Madame Karis greeting her with a smile. Recalling the scene of herself accidentally falling asleep at the doorway last night, the girl then realized that she was currently in her cat form and hurriedly explained in panic to Karis. But the other party acted as if she knew nothing and said with a smile that she had not seen wolf pups in a very long time. Only then did Tia finally let out a sigh of relief. Thinking back to the way Karis had frowned yesterday, it was probably just because she disliked how young she was. After sitting up from the blanket, she decided to act like an adult, become self-reliant, and avenge her mother. But in the very next second, the girl was enjoying being pulled into Karis's arms and kneaded all over. Touching Tia's soft little hands, Karis finally understood why Devin had called her Lil Soft. As for yesterday, it was only because seeing how thin and weak the girl was had made her feel bad. From now on, she would prepare lots and lots of delicious food and raise Tia to be fair and plump. Tia told Karis that her name was Katia. If she called her Kitty, she would be very happy. On the way to the dining room, Tia kept thinking about what Karis meant by from now on. Did it mean she was going to adopt her, or was she simply arranging a job for her? Through the window, she understood that she and the wolves were still not really the same, and sooner or later, she would be discovered. When that time came, she would have no choice but to leave this mansion. Seeing Tia arrive at the dining room, the 2 brothers excitedly sprang to their feet. This morning, they had found Tia's room empty and thought she had already left. Not long afterward, Breakfast was also prepared. It was all shrimp and slices of salmon that Tia liked. After the meal, there was even a huge pudding dessert, and Tia even felt that perhaps there had been some mistake, because Zakar's dessert was only a tiny portion. Karis told Tia not to worry and to eat with ease. If she ever felt hungry in the future, she could come to this room anytime. Remembering how she had once been stopped by bad people from eating before, Tia became even more convinced that she must be very much like a wolf, otherwise she would not have been allowed into the kitchen. At this moment, Karis said that everyone in the family hoped to form a temporary family with Tia, so they also wanted to hear her own thoughts. Tia subconsciously looked toward Zakar. Unexpectedly, even he, who usually seemed indifferent, had agreed. After thinking it over again and again, Tia still declined everyone's kindness because she could not forget her family. She was worried that this would disappoint the Grywolf family. So Karis stepped forward and comforted Tia, saying that she did not need to force herself to forget and that she must not forget either. They would always stay in your heart, and they would certainly also hope that Tia could be well protected and live happily. Seeing Tia nod in agreement, Theo happily picked her up and spun around. But Tia still felt somewhat guilty in her heart. Her mother was still buried in the cold earth, while she herself was about to begin such a good life. So Karis decided to hold a funeral for Tia, and she told her that after the funeral was over, animals would go to a happy place. There, Tia's family would also live very happily, so she did not need to feel guilty. This was Tia's first time hearing such a thing. She asked Zakar, could it be that in that place, the streams were filled with sliced salmon? After receiving Zakar's approval, the girl finally smiled. Everyone in this family treated her very well, which made her very happy. However, how exactly should the funeral be held? After all, both her brother and her father had died while carrying out missions in the north. Zakar suddenly seemed to remember something. Tia told him that both of their names were Icarus. Hearing this, Zakar looked at the girl with mixed feelings. Tia was a little confused and had just wanted to change the subject and talk about her mother, but then she remembered that her mother was buried in the cat's territory. When her mother died, she still had 3 younger siblings in her womb. Tia was put in a difficult position for a moment. Did they have to dig her mother up again just to hold a funeral? Seeing Tia's distress, Karis told her that the most important things in a funeral were sincerity and blessings. If they could place portraits of the family together, it would instead be even more meaningful. After that, Theo and Devin took Tia by the hand and went to their room to get paintbrushes, while Karis went to prepare candles and flowers. When they reached the doorway, the wolf-shaped carving on the doorknob startled Tia. Since I was holding your hands, I couldn't open the door. Seeing that Tia was scared, the 2 brothers couldn't help but find it a little funny. After opening the door, Theo told the maid to step back first. He also told Tia that once her registration was completed, a servant would be arranged for her as well. Devin directly picked Tia up and placed her on the cushion, feeling that she was far too light. So he told her that she absolutely had to come to their room often in the future to eat snacks. Tia nodded. However, since he didn't hear Tia call him Big Brother, Devin felt somewhat disappointed. Afterward, Tia picked up a paintbrush and began drawing seriously. As she drew, her little tail quietly slipped out again. It even swayed back and forth along with her drawing movements. The 2 brothers behind her were watching and almost couldn't hold back their laughter. Tia puffed up and explained that this was a common movement for young wolves. At this moment, Karis had the maid bring over desserts. Although Tia was still sulking, she still reluctantly ate some. Theo, who was beside her, saw Tia's painting and couldn't help asking what kind of people Tia's family were. Mother was a very gentle person who would always hold her tightly and had even given her the nickname Lil Soft. Her father and brother were heroes. Although they had missions all year round and could only come home occasionally, they brought her gifts every time. It was just a pity that there were still 3 babies in her mother's belly, and since they hadn't been born yet, she couldn't draw them. Tia suggested that she wanted to add some more things to the back of the painting. After getting permission, she ran to the other side of the room. It turned out that what she wanted to draw was what her family looked like after turning into cats. As she drew, the girl kept them firmly in her heart. She hoped that they could also be happy in heaven. Before they knew it, evening had arrived, and Tia's painting had been put into a frame. After looking at it, Karis praised Tia for having a talent for painting. Then she took Tia by the hand and left, while the 2 brothers said they still had to go to another place. On the way, Karis told Tia that they were going to her room. Unlike the room from yesterday, the doorknob here also had a wolf carving on it. After entering the room, Tia asked in confusion, Zakar, this shouldn't be my room. But he insisted that this was Tia's room. Only then did the girl understand that the wolf-shaped doorknob was a symbol used only by members of the Grywolf family. Although she was only family temporarily, the girl was still very grateful that they had been so thoughtful, even specially bringing over the pillow she usually used. Just then, Theo and Devin hurried over. They handed Tia a box. Inside were 3 small candles and a few little flowers. It turned out that they had specially prepared them for Tia's unborn younger siblings. Then, the funeral officially began. Tia sincerely offered her blessings to her family. Afterward, together with her new family, she quietly waited for the candles to burn out. After that, they collected the melted wax. They buried it in the backyard of the mansion, and the funeral came to an end there as well. Then, Zakar placed a small pendulum where the candles had originally been. It was a magical item that would protect the painting and chrysanthemums from then on. Although he looked cold, he was actually very gentle toward Tia. Immediately after, the family came to Zakar's office. There was a photograph on the desk. It was the Grywolf family's family portrait. The two brothers unanimously believed that Zakar, who cherished his family, was the most handsome wolf. But you two are also very handsome big brothers. Tia's praise instantly made the two brothers shy. At this moment, Karis brought over the household registration papers. The girl carefully wrote down her own name. Karis praised Tia for writing very clearly, and next they still had to fill out the adoption documents. All the documents had to be read first before being signed. The paper was densely covered with text. Tia stared at it for quite a while. Only then did she finally find her own name in it. Other than that, she couldn't understand a single word. Karis quickly took the documents away and comforted Tia, saying that it was perfectly normal for a young wolf her age not to understand these things. After all, even Theo and Devin couldn't understand them either. So Karis read it to Tia word by word, saying that if she had any thoughts, they could bring them up and revise it together. Tia complained that the wolf-shaped doorknob on the room was too scary. Hearing that Zakar would deal with it later, the girl happily said that there was nothing else wrong. Then it was time for the fingerprinting step, and Tia immediately turned into a little cat on the spot. This adorable appearance left the two brothers completely stunned. Karis picked Tia up. She dabbed her in the red clay. Katia pressed her paw print onto the document. From that moment on, Tia officially became a member of the Grywolf family. Next, Karis carried Tia to meet the servants, because before long, she would also have to go out to attend the Wolf Clan assembly. Although she was very happy to have a daughter, attending the meeting was also her duty. After hearing that, Tia also said that she understood. She had originally thought they were going out to catch fish. Early tomorrow morning, Karis would be setting out. She promised that when she came back, she would bring Tia a gift and, while she was at it, help find her a teacher. She already had several suitable candidates in mind. Then Karis carried Tia to meet the servants. Over here was the head maid, Flora. On the other side was the butler, Paul Clinton. The one in charge of the kitchen was the head chef, Mina. There was also Elliot, the captain of the knights who assisted Zakar. And just then Tia noticed that among the crowd, one person was staring straight at her. The other party stepped forward to introduce himself. His name was Creed, the heir of the Fox family. After saying that, he questioned Tia's identity, saying that the young lady was much smaller than expected. Was she really a wolf? The girl immediately panicked and tried to hide the cat ears that had been exposed. She had heard that foxes were more perceptive than other animals, and if she were discovered, she might be driven out. In a moment of desperation, the girl grabbed Creed's hand and bit down on it. Elliot hurried forward and stopped Creed from continuing to be rude. Creed still wanted to argue, but as soon as he looked up, he met Zakar's gaze. Afterward, Creed apologized to Tia. What made Tia feel strange was that, logically speaking, foxes and wolves were not that close. So, why would the heir of the Fox family appear here? It turned out that because foxes were especially sensitive to magic power, in order to deal with the leopards, they had been temporarily placed here in squads. Afterward, Karis arranged a personal maid for Tia. It was Gray, the maid who had helped Tia bathe yesterday. Tia was very happy to see Gray again. Just like that, she said goodbye to the others and prepared to return to her room to sleep. When she reached the door, Tia discovered that the wolf-shaped doorknob had already been changed to look much cuter. After entering the room, Tia had just been about to climb into bed and sleep when Gray scooped her up in one go. No way. When she learned that she still had to take a bath before bed, the girl struggled desperately. Gray told Tia that someone would come tomorrow to custom make clothes for the young lady, and the most important thing when welcoming guests was to stay neat and clean. Only then did Tia reluctantly nod in agreement. After arriving at the bathroom, Tia was very surprised by the scene before her. It turned out that Devin and Theo had specially prepared a bubble bath for Tia. Together with the company of the toy duck, Tia finished her bath smoothly. Just before going to sleep, Tia asked Gray what exactly had happened to the fox beast men that made them come here. Gray said that if the young lady wanted to know, she could ask her tutor, because she did not have the authority to answer that question. However, if the young lady wanted to hear lullabies, she could sing as many as she wanted. Meanwhile, Creed was lying awake in his room, too troubled to sleep. He understood that he was of crucial importance to the scattered foxes, but it was precisely because of their sensitivity to magic power that they had attracted the covetous attention of the leopards. So, he had no choice but to stay temporarily with the Grywolf family. There was another point that also bothered him greatly. Surely, everyone had already realized that the girl was a cat. The Grywolf family had no reason to add to their own burden at such a critical moment. Besides, that girl was clearly a cat, yet she had still dared to bite him. This made Creed suspect even more that Tia was different from other cats. In the morning, the girl had just woken up. Maid Gray was already standing guard by the bedside. She praised Tia, saying that even though she was so young, she did not sleep in at all. The girl proudly said that it was because she was already a grown-up. After that, Gray went to prepare breakfast for Tia. Thick cut bacon, slices of salmon, delicate bite-sized desserts, and hot milk. Tia could hardly believe that her breakfast would actually be so lavish. Back when she was in the cat's territory, if a cat did not work, they would not be given food. And Tia had already started working when she was 3 years old. Thinking of this, Tia choked up a little. She had to eat more and grow up quickly, so she could avenge her mother. After breakfast, Gray helped Tia fix her hair. Because quite a bit of Tia's hair was damaged, it would be best to cut it all off. The girl was so frightened that she jolted, thinking she was about to be shaved bald. But fortunately, Gray was skillful and only gave Tia a slight layered trim, leaving the rest to be dealt with later. Since there was still some time before the clothes were to be made, Gray told Tia that she could go play nearby for a while first. But Tia had hardly ever played since she was little, because as soon as she ran around, her stomach would get hungry faster. Gray told Tia that there was plenty of food in the Gray Wolf mansion, and as long as she was hungry, she could just go to the dining room to eat and would never need to worry about such things again. Afterward, Gray helped Tia put on new clothes. These clothes had all been bought by Karis at great expense. The budget had even exceeded the total amount spent on Theo and Devon's clothes, and this afternoon a special designer would even come to tailor clothes for her. Hearing this, Tia felt a little guilty. She was only an adopted daughter, yet Madame had spent so much money on her. Gray advised her not to think too much about it, because Madame Karis would also be very happy seeing how adorable Tia was. It just so happened that Madame had not left yet, so she could personally show her. Meanwhile, Karis was giving instructions before departure. Katia is in your care at home, so absolutely do not cause me any trouble. Just then, Tia hurried over. Seeing the way the girl was dressed, everyone was instantly overwhelmed by how adorable she looked. When she learned that Tia had come specifically to see her off, Karis happily pulled Tia into a tight embrace. Then she told Zakar to take good care of their daughter. She lightly placed a kiss on his face. After Tia saw this, she immediately thought of something. She hurriedly stood behind Zakar and started lining up, but after waiting for a long time, she still didn't see Karis react at all. The girl couldn't help asking in confusion, wasn't this a line for kisses? Karis practically wished she could stuff Tia into a sack and take her away with her. I really can't do this if I have to go to the meeting. After the family said goodbye to Karis, they carefully watched her leave all the way. Tia suddenly heard Zakar mention the blue moon. Back when she was in the cat's territory, her job had been to inspect the blue moon for others. At this moment, Zakar noticed Tia's gaze. He asked what she had planned for today. The girl understood that he was asking because he cared about her. After Tia finished telling him all of today's plans and asked Zakar in return, he merely replied coldly that he was very busy. The two brothers comforted Tia, saying that their father was actually very kind and gentle, and that if she asked him directly what he meant, he would definitely explain. So Tia asked again, and Zakar said that he would be in the office all day. Theo told Tia that this answer was really not much different from saying very busy. What he actually meant was that Tia could go to the office to see her father whenever she wanted. Hearing this, Tia finally smiled happily. Afterward, Tia told Gray that she wanted to take a walk nearby. The two brothers volunteered to be her guides. So Gray handed Tia a box of cookies. She reminded her to come back in time for the meal, since she would also be getting clothes tailored in the afternoon. The two brothers first took Tia to visit the banquet hall, where everyone would dine together if guests came to visit. And the area inside was the party hall. Devon said that if Lil Soft wanted to learn how to dance, she could come to him, and Theo immediately became unhappy when he heard that. He was the older brother, so no matter what, he should be first. Next, the three of them went to tour the courtyard, and because the place was simply too large, Theo decided to take Tia to the eastern side first. There were vast orchards and seas of flowers there. It was also the favorite place of the Grywolf family chefs and pastry chefs. Tia's attention was quickly drawn to the plump strawberries. They tasted sweet and slightly tart, and were especially delicious. Seeing this, Devon picked a big handful and handed them to Tia. He had just said that it would be fine as long as no one found out. Unexpectedly, the very next second, they were caught red-handed by the gardener Philip. He first politely greeted the three of them. Then he asked Tia whether she had secretly eaten any strawberries. Just as Tia shook her head, Philip instead looked full of guilt and apologized, saying that the strawberries grown this time were not ideal and had failed to satisfy the young lady. Tia quickly comforted him, saying they were actually very sweet and delicious. Only then did she realize that she had accidentally let it slip. But Philip had no intention of blaming her and even gave her a full basket of strawberries, telling her she could come eat them anytime. After all, if the young lady thought they were delicious, that was the meaning of his growing those fruits. On the way back, Tia suddenly felt that being a gardener in the Grywolf household was actually not a bad choice. However, in Theo's eyes, it was already enough for Tia to just be adorable every day. If being cute was also Tia's job, then she was practically overworking every single day. Before they knew it, the three of them arrived in front of a stone monument, the memorial stele of the Grywolf family. Carved on it were the names of all the wolves who had died during the blue moon. Tia sincerely bowed to it. Just then, a carriage drove into the estate. It was probably the people who had come to make her clothes. Devon asked Tia whether her feet hurt after walking for so long. Although they really did hurt a little because of an old injury from before, Tia still bravely shook her head. Theo saw at a glance that Tia was putting on a brave face and said that getting clothes made would be tiring later, so they should help her save her strength now, and Devon immediately understood. He transformed into a huge gray wolf. Tia's face turned pale with fright at the sight of the giant wolf before her. Theo lifted Tia onto the wolf's back and explained that as long as one's magic reached a certain level, one's body size could enlarge proportionally. And their father's magic was even stronger, so the wolf he turned into would be even bigger. Just like that, Theo and Tia rode back to the manor on Devon. Meanwhile, the designer making the clothes was invited into the room by the maid. Seeing that they had successfully infiltrated the place, one of them revealed a sinister smile. Unfortunately, Madame Karis, who was familiar with women's clothing, was not here today, so Tia went to ask Zakar for his opinion. On the way, she happened to run into Zakar's adjutant, Elliot. Tia told him that she hoped Zakar would accompany her while her clothes were being made. Elliot looked a little troubled when he heard that, because Lord Zakar really was very busy today. However, he said he would pass along the young lady's wish for her. After arriving at the room, the two designers first greeted the maid Gray, and Mr. and Mrs. Vera also solemnly said that they were very happy to make clothes for Madame Karis. Tia thought that it was because she was too small that they had not noticed her. Then she took the initiative to bow to the two of them and seriously introduced herself, saying that she was Katia, a young but strong little wolf, currently adopted by the Gray wolf family. After her words fell, the room was silent for several whole seconds. Suddenly, Mrs. Vera moved close to Tia and looked her over carefully. She then solemnly swore that she would put great care into making clothes for the young lady. "Then, may I call you Miss Katia?" Tia answered happily. The next second, Mrs. Vera got so excited that she pounded her husband's chest hard. Then they took out all kinds of clothes for Tia to look at. The dazzling array of garments before her left the girl overwhelmed for a moment. She had heard that Mr. and Mrs. Vera also liked making clothes for dolls in their spare time. Tia could not help thinking that surely she was not going to be asked to wear doll clothes too. At this moment, Mrs. Vera asked Tia whether she had any favorite styles and recommended the very fashionable riding breeches. Tia thought the outfit was indeed very comfortable to wear, but she was worried that her tail would be hard to hide. So she refused the suggestion and said that she preferred dresses with ruffles, and the more gorgeous, the better. Immediately afterward, Mrs. Vera brought out several pieces of fabric for Tia to choose from. Tia had originally wanted to choose a more mature peach color, but Mrs. Vera felt that Tia looked even cuter that way. When taking the fabric, the other woman accidentally touched Tia's little hand. Mrs. Vera could hardly believe that there could be someone in this world whose hands were this soft. Just then, a noisy commotion came from the doorway. The two brothers were pestering Zakar, loudly insisting that they had to come see Tia getting her clothes tailored. When she saw who had come, Tia immediately brightened up. After that, the father and two sons looked at the clothing designs together. Tia, meanwhile, walked to the other side by herself and began looking at the accessories. The person before her made Tia inexplicably think of Jarian, the bad cat who used to bully her. That person took out a hat and wanted the girl to try it on. Seeing that Tia seemed somewhat satisfied, the person immediately pulled out the bill and began quoting the price. Tia was shocked on the spot when she saw that long string of zeros. Afterward, the person said that if she liked it, she could go tell Madame Gray. She also said that as long as the daughter liked it, the Grywolf family surely would not mind spending this little bit of money. Moreover, such a large peridot also suited the status of the Grywolf family perfectly. That way, even if it were a mouse, no one would suspect anything. Tia was not sure whether the person had seen through the fact that she was not a wolf, but she still directly said that if they wanted to sell this thing, they would have to remove at least 3 zeros, because that stone was not a gem at all, just a piece of dyed glass. After saying that, Tia threw down the hat, turned around, and left. And this entire scene was watched from beginning to end by Zakar nearby. Tia felt very upset inside that someone had actually treated her like an easy mark. In the past, Jarian had always been engaged in swapping real gems with exquisite fake ones, and Tia's old job had been to distinguish whether gems were real or fake. Although the girl did not know why she had such an ability, she knew very clearly that Jarian, who had constantly ordered her around and even wanted to harm her mother, was a thoroughly bad cat. Just then, Gray called Tia to go change clothes. After changing into the new outfit, Tia was so cute that she was almost like a doll. It was not only the father and 2 sons who felt satisfied after seeing it. Even Tia herself liked it very much. Who would have thought that Zakar had arranged many other styles as well? And so, Tia patiently tried on many more clothes. Every single one of them made everyone present's eyes light up. Then Zakar made a gesture toward Mrs. Vera. Tia thought that the clothes she had tried on this time were not ideal enough. Zakar asked Tia how she felt, and Tia answered that they were very comfortable and very pretty, and that she liked both the leather shoes and the hair clips. Even though she had already tried on several outfits, her favorite was still the one she was wearing now. After hearing that, Zakar nodded. Sure enough, directly buying 5 of this outfit had been the right decision. As for the others on the rack, pack them all too, and put them straight into the wardrobe. Tia was so shocked that her expression almost twisted. What if she grew up before she had time to wear all these clothes? Then they could just make new ones, right? Didn't you say you liked the one you're wearing best? After saying that, Zakar again signaled to Mrs. Vera. He also wanted to have another set of clothes made that the entire Grywolf family could wear. When the bill was written at the end, Tia secretly glanced at it. The girl was almost frightened senseless on the spot by the astronomical amount. If she caused the Grywolf family to go bankrupt because of her, she would definitely feel guilty. But immediately after that, she heard Zakar say that there was actually still plenty of budget left. After the clothes had been ordered, the family left the living room. Zakar asked Tia whether she had eaten properly. Counting on her fingers, the girl said that she had eaten lots of strawberries and cookies, and the moment she finished speaking, Zakar said that he was going back to the office. But after saying that, his gaze remained fixed tightly on Tia, leaving the girl rather baffled for a moment. At this time, the two older brothers walked to Tia's side. They quietly hinted that their father had stayed in the office all day, so by saying that, he was very likely implying that there was something in the office that Tia would like. Tia immediately understood, and at once asked Zakar whether she could go play in his office. Then Zakar picked Tia up in one motion and walked straight toward the office. Compared with the first time she had come here, the place was a little different. Beside the desk, there was actually a cradle that the brothers had used before. Tia said that she had many questions she wanted to ask later, and Zakar did not refuse. But before that, they had to measure her height first. Afterward, he brought Tia over to the bookshelf. There were quite a few tiny scratches left on it. Apparently, those should have been the height marks left by the brothers when they were little. Tia immediately became more confident, because looking at it that way, she did not seem all that small. However, when it came time to actually measure her height, Tia desperately stood on tiptoe. But in the end, her mark still stopped below the brothers' records. According to Zakar, her current height was about the same as Theo and Devin when they were 4 years old. The girl seemed to suffer an enormous blow on the spot. Just then, she suddenly noticed a box on the desk. She remembered that it seemed to be the item Elliot had reported about that morning. At this time, Zakar also noticed Tia's gaze. He blocked her line of sight with his hand and explained in a low voice. The box contained a gemstone that could affect emotions, so it could not be looked at casually. But seeing that Tia's face was still full of curiosity, Zakar told her that it was an imitation made after extracting the blue moon's magic, and that for a special child like her, it might not have much effect. The girl suddenly remembered that before her mother died, she had once said that Tia possessed a special kind of power. Hearing this, Zakar sank into thought. Afterward, he seriously instructed Tia that she must never tell anyone else about this in the future, because people always become greedy for special things, and many people behind the scenes were coveting that power. If they could not obtain it, they would choose to destroy it. Tia obediently agreed. Then she asked Zakar whether he knew her father. Not exactly knew him, only heard of him. The moment those words fell, Tia choked up and begged Zakar to tell her even just a little about her father. Zakar took out a handkerchief and wiped away Tia's tears, comforting her by saying he would tell her after she grew up. But seeing how miserable and heartbroken Tia looked, he ultimately could not quite bear it. In this world, there is a song about the divine maiden that is sung far and wide, and the sapphire necklace mentioned in that song is the blue moon. It possesses the power to make beast folk lose their reason. Tia could hardly believe that the thing inside that box was actually something so terrifying. Zakar told Tia not to be afraid, because he had already placed it into a treasure box that could block magic. And as far as he knew, a father and son named Icarus had been investigating the blue moon all along. Tia was startled. Although her mother had once said that her father and brother were heroes, it was still the first time she had heard that they had actually been investigating the legendary gemstone. Seeing that Zakar did not seem to intend to continue, Tia lowered her head and began reading, hoping that she could grow up sooner and learn more about her father. After a while, Tia got so bored that she yawned, but Zakar, sitting in front of her, was still handling official business with meticulous care. Watching the scene, Tia could not help imagining what Karis looked like when she worked. Suddenly, she realized that Zakar was looking at her. It turned out that Tia had accidentally let her cat ears show. The girl was just about to hide her ears again when she heard Zakar say that he wanted to take a bite. Tia was immediately startled. Was she really going to be eaten today? At that thought, her heart began trembling. Right after that, Zakar explained that in the Grywolf family, that way of speaking was actually used to mean very cute. Tia thought to herself that she was a little wolf now, so there was nothing to be afraid of. So she jumped straight onto Zakar's desk. Then, with a tragic expression, she stretched her head out in front of Zakar. However, the pain she had expected never came. What came instead was Zakar's gentle touch. For the rest of the time, Zakar kept his head down and handled affairs until midnight, and Tia had long since fallen asleep in the crib that had been prepared in advance. During the day, he had deliberately only said half of what he meant, actually in order to reassure Tia. According to the records, the animal that pulled the Divine Maiden's carriage was a cat. Some cats blessed by the Divine Maiden would become immune to magic, and in order for the Divine Maiden to recognize them again, their family would pass down the name Icarus from generation to generation. Though she was clearly only as big as one of his hands, she might still become the key to everything. For a moment, even Zakar could not judge whether this was truly God's arrangement. After waking up, Tia returned to her room. She excitedly told Gray that she had just taken a nap in Zakar's office, and that he had even given her a picture book. Just then, a servant delivered a letter. It said that it was addressed to Miss Katia. The next morning, the two brothers were studying in their room. Suddenly, Tia walked in carrying a stack of letters. After learning that Tia had come to study, the two brothers immediately said, of course, that they would accompany her. It turned out that last night's letter had been sent by Karis. Because she missed her little daughter so much during the meeting, she talked about Tia with nearly everyone she met. As a result, quite a few people could not wait to meet Tia, so Karis decided to hold a small tea party. Since Tia had not yet officially started learning to write, it did not matter even if her handwriting was crooked and shaky. What mattered was that the invitations be sent with complete sincerity. After reading it, the brothers immediately understood that Tia wanted to learn how to make invitations for the tea party. So she started learning from the most basic characters. Tia carefully wrote every single stroke. At this moment, Devin suddenly leaned over and told Tia to copy a few relatively difficult characters. Theo, not far away, quickly noticed what was happening. When he walked over for a look, he discovered that the words this guy had made Tia copy were actually Big Brother Devin is the best. Even so, Theo did not make too much of it, because once wolves reached a certain age, they had to travel far away to learn combat, and in the future Tia would inevitably have to write to them often. At this moment, Tia curiously asked what people usually did at tea parties. When she learned that everyone would also dance together, Tia immediately became very excited. Considering that there was not much else to do today anyway, the two brothers decided to take Tia and do a tea party practice run first. They had only just sat down by the table. When Tia's gaze was immediately drawn to the desserts in front of her, Theo told her that she could not eat them right away at a time like this, because the desserts were for the tea, and the tea was for the conversation. Tia listened with only half understanding, but in any case, she understood that they had to talk first. So she immediately asked the two brothers whether, since it was nearly shedding season, they had the habit of brushing their fur every day. As a result, Devin failed to hold it in and sprayed all his tea onto Tia's head. Then Theo quickly changed the subject and praised the invitation they had received for being very beautiful. The moment Tia heard that, she became so happy that she got a little carried away and rattled off a whole bunch of random things. Theo immediately corrected her, saying that at a tea party, one could not be too emotional and one could not speak too quickly either. At this moment, Tia had another worry. She was very concerned that her ears might pop out from time to time. Devin suggested that Tia could wear a hat to cover them a little, but generally speaking, only outstanding wolves whose hearts were in extreme turmoil would unconsciously let their ears show. Wolves only ever have one mate in their lifetime, and when they meet the person they want to spend the rest of their lives with, their ears will pop out involuntarily. After hearing that, Tia actually felt a bit of longing, wondering whether there would be someone in the future who would make her ears come out too. And at that very moment, the two brothers silently reached the same understanding. They absolutely could not let any suspicious person get close to their precious little sister. To become stronger, the little kitty Tia quietly began to take action. She quietly came to the training grounds and secretly watched her older brothers practice. However, she couldn't hold back and still let out a meow. That single sound instantly drew everyone's attention. Zakar, who happened to be passing by, picked her up with one hand and reminded her that a white marshmallow like her would actually be even easier to spot hiding in the grass. Tia's sullen expression made her brothers feel a little amused. At Tia's request, Theo brought over a coat. Then he draped it over the girl. And so, the magic trick of the little kitty turning into a person made its dazzling debut. The others also noisily gathered around and greeted Tia one after another. Zakar told everyone to go back to their own business first, then asked Tia what exactly she had come to the training grounds for. Just now, it even looked like you were copying the sound of a wolf howl. Tia hesitantly revealed that she wanted to learn how to fight. Although Zakar refused on the grounds that she was too young, Tia still wanted to prepare in advance, because only then would she be able to leave the manor after becoming an adult. The moment she finished speaking, the air around them instantly froze. Tia was stunned for a moment and wondered if she had said something wrong. Her two brothers immediately said that adulthood was clearly still a long way off, so why was she already thinking about leaving now? After thinking for a moment, Zakar asked again if Tia really wanted to learn. Tia immediately opened her mouth and said that although she was still young, she had everything she was supposed to have, and her teeth were also very sharp. Looking at Tia's small little teeth, for a moment, Zakar didn't even know where to begin criticizing. Besides, Brother Theo and Brother Devin train every morning. For a moment, the image of Tia acting spoiled appeared in all three of their minds at the same time. After that, The three of them went together to discuss it with Elliot, and Tia was so excited that her heart was practically racing. Sure enough, the other party told Tia to remember to get up early tomorrow. Starting tomorrow, Tia would learn the basics from Elliot. Tia was so excited that she even started thinking that in a few days, she might be able to go teach Jerian a lesson. Early the next morning, Karis began complaining that Zakar was making Tia learn martial arts too early, because she herself still wasn't mentally prepared. Although she said that, the floor was already piled full of equipment she had bought for Tia. And she also knew very well that as long as Tia wanted to learn, she simply couldn't stop her. But that woman who had come to the manor that day kept making her uneasy, and someone with close ties to the leopards had actually been able to enter the manor so openly. What's more, there was the hat she had given Tia. After Creed examined it, they discovered that inside the hat, there were actually tracking and eavesdropping spells hidden. If Tia had put it on without any guard, then her every move and daily whereabouts would have been exposed. Perhaps because Tia had only just become their daughter, the leopards believed that this was now the wolf clan's weakness. No matter what, Zakar said he would personally investigate it, but Karis still couldn't stop worrying. After all, compared with them, kitties were still far too weak. Even though she had already given orders in advance for all the wolves in the territory to treat Tia as a wolf, that still could not change the difference between species. If we directly say that we already know Tia's true identity, then she would definitely develop a strong sense of guilt over having lied to us before. Just then, there was suddenly a knock at the door. Tia poked her little head in through the crack in the door. Because it was her first day of class, she had gotten up especially early today. Karis said that she had prepared some simple little gifts. Inside were a small wooden sword suitable for Tia, as well as sturdy leather boots. Tia happily threw herself into Karis's arms, but she herself hadn't prepared any gift at all. Karis was just about to say it didn't matter, but Tia suddenly leaned close and kissed her on the cheek, and Karis instantly became so excited that her ears stood straight up. As everyone knows, wolf beastmen only reveal their tails and ears when their emotions fluctuate intensely. And the last time Zakar had seen Karis reveal her ears was the previous time. He truly couldn't understand what was so worth being happy about. Afterward, Zakar took Tia to the training grounds. On the way, they ran into Theo and Devon, and Tia even showed the two of them the wooden sword she had just received. At that moment, the two brothers noticed Zakar's expression. They guessed that their father was jealous. The next second, Zakar directly transformed into a giant black wolf. Come on, I'll take you to your first lesson. The two brothers were instantly speechless. They had not received this kind of treatment on their first day of class. Not long after, the three of them rode on Zakar to the training grounds, and even Elliot didn't know what to say for a moment. Was this kind of treatment really just temporary fostering? Tia thanked Zakar, and also kissed him on the nose. The next instant, Zakar transformed back into human form again. When everyone saw Zakar's ears standing up, they were all so shocked that they were dumbfounded. Next, Tia began her first lesson. Seeing the way she stood, Elliot could not help feeling a little puzzled. Tia explained that it was all thanks to the work she did when she was little. Back then, that uncle had said that if her posture was bad, her head would be chopped off. Calm down. Seeing Elliot's shocked expression, Tia then realized that this was not a normal thing. She sadly lowered her head and also began to feel ashamed of her posture. Elliot comforted her, saying that her stance was very perfect. He just felt that it would have been better if Milady could have learned in a warmer environment. In order to decide the direction of her future training, Elliot first arranged several tests. He rolled little balls downward and had Tia try to catch them. Unexpectedly, Tia's movements were exceptionally agile, and she didn't miss a single one of the 6 little balls. The second test was to measure Tia's jumping ability, and Elliot had only just finished saying not to force herself. Tia didn't even need a running start, and directly rushed to the highest point. Although he clearly knew that wolves were not as good at jumping as cats, Elliot still insincerely praised her, saying that it was perfectly normal for a little wolf to be more agile. In the end, aside from strength, Tia got high marks in every other category. Elliot told Tia to eat more meat from now on, and if she wanted to use a weapon, she could also try a bow and arrow. Tia felt a little disappointed for a moment. She had originally wanted to learn swordsmanship and fight Jerian to the death, since that bad guy was always threatening kitties with a sword. Seeing Tia's ears droop like fallen leaves, Elliot comforted her and told her not to be disappointed, because the symbol of Grywolf had always been the bow and arrow. The place where Lady Karis previously held meetings was called the Central Training Ground, and the bow once used by the Divine Maiden was still preserved there. So a weapon imbued with the power of legend was no worse than a sword. Although Elliot said this mainly to comfort himself, Tia really was comforted by it and decided that from now on she would work even harder at archery. During the day, she practiced archery with Elliot at the training grounds. At noon, she ate a little to restore her strength, and in the afternoon, she went to her brother's room to learn writing. Tia worked this hard so that she would no longer be controlled by Eden, and today just happened to be the day Eden came to the manor to teach. After parting with her brothers, Tia was just about to head for the training grounds. But just then, Creed appeared before the girl. kneeling on one knee. "Your shoelaces are untied. Do you need me to help tie them?" Tia was so startled that she stepped back half a step, since during their first meeting, she had definitely not seen him this friendly. Creed explained that he had only wanted to make a joke back then. After being bitten by Milady's wolf fangs, he had suddenly come to his senses. No matter how he looked at her, Milady was a majestic wolf, and it was he who had said the wrong thing. Tia was so flattered by the praise that she felt a little lightheaded. The next second, Elliot interrupted him. He warned him not to wag his tail at Milady anymore. "You fox should stop pretending to be some ignorant 10-year-old child. I can hear your scheming all the way from over here." Tia was a little confused for a moment. Could it be that the wolf clan didn't like wagging tails? Tia's innocence almost made Elliot cough up blood, but he had no way to explain matters of affection to Milady. By the afternoon, Eden's carriage arrived at the manor, and Tia went with her brothers to greet him at the entrance. Unlike the two brothers' impatience, Eden had only just stepped down from the carriage when Tia immediately went up to him and asked after his well-being. After sitting in a carriage for so long, "You must be tired." But Eden was only busy talking with the attendant and turned a blind eye to Tia's friendly overtures beside him, which immediately made Tia feel very annoyed. If she weren't afraid of being reported, she would never do this kind of thing. At this moment, Eden finally turned his gaze to Tia. "Are you trying to flatter me like this because you don't want to attend class?" Tia shook her head in denial. Then she leaned close to Eden's ear and whispered that she actually really liked attending classes with Eden and that she had liked him from the very first time she met him. After saying that, Eden turned his head to the other side. Tia instantly became furious, never expecting that he would dislike her so much. Afterward, Tia came to the classroom to prepare before class and began thinking about how she could make Eden happy. After all, once she became an adult, she would leave Grywolf and live on her own. Before that, only by learning more from Eden could she take revenge on Jarian. At this moment, Eden happened to walk over and wondered whether Tia's expression meant she was dissatisfied with class. Tia hurriedly shook her head in denial. What Eden had prepared was teaching material specifically for children. After hearing that, Tia opened the book and took a look. It was densely packed, all text. "Honestly, I don't think you can understand this book, but since I am the one teaching you, then the most basic knowledge in every field must be learned once." Tia felt like dying. If this kept going, when exactly would she ever be able to take revenge? Eden also knew this was hard for Tia, so he used Tia's favorite salmon as an analogy. "If you have one piece of salmon, and then I give you one more, what happens?" The moment Tia heard this, she immediately smiled happily. "If that were the case, I would definitely feel very happy." Eden looked weakly out the window. "Then if you have 2 pieces of salmon and I snatch one away, what happens?" "Eden, are you hungry?" "But that's okay. I have 2 pieces of salmon. Because when I first came to the manor, I was always hungry too, so I'm very willing to share with you." Eden raised a hand and pointed to the side. "First count how many patterns there are on the wallpaper." While Tia was counting, Eden turned his flushed face toward the window, and for the first time, the boy experienced the feeling of being moved in love. After that, Eden arranged a whole pile of lessons for Tia. In addition, because Tia always looked like a kitty. Besides that, Eden also had to teach her how to grow up like a wolf. But Tia felt that there was nothing wrong with the way she behaved at all. Her ears and tail were obviously exactly the same as a wolf's. Hearing this, Eden was so speechless that for a moment, he didn't know what to say. "You said just now that you like me, right? But wolves do not casually express affection." Tia had just wanted to explain when Eden interrupted her. "Did you already forget what I just said so quickly? As for saying things like wanting to bite you, that actually is indeed used often if the other person is really cute." After hearing this, Tia said with a smile, "If you want to bite me, you can do it anytime." Suddenly, Eden slammed the table. Then he turned around and walked out of the room. Tia felt a little downcast. She had only wanted to act a little closer, but it seemed she had instead made him dislike her. Meanwhile, the 2 brothers just happened to run into Eden as he walked out of the classroom. Seeing his whole body limp and his face bright red, the 2 brothers immediately realized the situation was bad. They hurriedly rushed into the room and demanded to know what exactly had happened to Tia. "Did that brat pull some trick? He didn't do anything like kissy-kissy, did he?" Hearing Tia say no, the 2 brothers finally let out a sigh of relief. The 2 of them surrounded their younger sister and warned her, "Absolutely do not let Eden think he has a chance to get close to you, because wolves are very persistent animals, so you absolutely must be careful." But even after repeatedly warning her, the 2 of them still weren't at ease. They planned to come watch over Tia whenever she had lessons from then on, but their plan was directly rejected by Eden on the grounds that he would not be able to concentrate on teaching. And the amount of training the 2 of them had also increased, so they truly could not spare the time. Within a month, as Tia studied under Eden, a month passed by without her realizing it. On this day, she finished her homework in complete exhaustion. While checking it, Eden told Tia, "The reason you feel tired is entirely because you keep wagging your tail while writing." This time, her homework was praised, and Tia was very happy. She had now already corrected her habit of speaking like a child, but because of her teeth, she still missed some pronunciations. Once she grew up, she should be able to speak clearly. Speaking of growing up, Eden asked Tia what she planned to do then. By that time, Tia should already have left Grywolf Manor. She was going to find the enemy who had killed her mother and take revenge. Then let me ask you, Eden, what do you want to do in the future? After thinking for a moment, Eden said with a serious expression that he wanted to become stronger. Hearing that Lady Vibus had died protecting Eden, Tia felt that the two of them actually had very similar goals. She comforted Eden, saying that someone as smart as him would definitely become very strong. Just then, the brothers, who should have been in class, suddenly rushed into the room. Without another word, the two of them insisted on taking Tia out for some fresh air. And so, Theo carried Tia to the countryside on his back. And at this time, Eden had still not forgotten to continue teaching Tia. From a recent letter sent by his father, he learned that a young and cunning leopard had seized the position of head of the Leopit family. Once he finished sorting out the internal affairs of his family, he might begin to take action. Tia did not understand why the leopards could not live peacefully with everyone, because leopard beast men have a very strong desire to conquer, and combined with their power of the blue moon, they naturally want to rule over all beast men. Tia's mood grew heavy. It was said that after that incident 12 years ago, the bear beast folk completely cut off all contact with the outside world. The fox beast folk were almost completely wiped out, and only a very small number received the protection of the wolf beast folk. And when the time comes, Lord Zakar and Lady Karis will surely fight a life and death battle with the leopards again. Tia's tail was accidentally bitten off by a leopard 4 years ago, but that time, the madness the leopards displayed was different from 12 years ago. The purpose of their invasion seemed to be only to satisfy some kind of need. According to her father, they also had collaborators within the other races. Before they knew it, the group had walked to the monument. If they could not stop the leopard's attack, they would probably have to erect another monument in the future. At the thought that everyone in Grywolf might get hurt, Tia could not help showing a worried expression, and Devon hurried over to cheer her up. Their father and mother had already prepared special countermeasures in advance. There was absolutely no way the leopard beast folk could break into the interior of the mansion. It turned out that, in order to prevent the leopards from charging in, they had planted catnip all over the hills around the mansion. At this point, Devon suddenly realized something. Tia, who had originally been sitting on Theo's back, had somehow disappeared. In the end, the three of them had to go through a great deal of trouble before they finally found Tia. They saw that she had already turned into a little cat and was rolling around on the grass in a spoiled manner. Devon hurriedly picked Tia up, but by this time she was already so affected from inhaling it that she was half out of her mind. Eden let out a wolf howl and called the doctor over. As for the two brothers, they only wanted to wake Tia up as quickly as possible. If anyone discovered her like this, they would definitely get scolded again. Just as Eden was about to slip away, Devon grabbed him. There's still so long before class ends. Is the teacher really going to leave the students behind and do nothing? Helpless, Eden had no choice but to try the method his father once mentioned for sobering up a drunkard. He carried Tia to the lakeside, and as if sensing danger, Tia suddenly opened her mouth and bit Eden. After biting him, she wriggled and burrowed into his arms. She even murmured in her sleep, "Please, be just a little kinder to me." Just then, Devon hurriedly carried Tia away. The two red-faced boys immediately reached an agreement on the spot that they must never let Tia touch alcohol in the future. The next second, Karis's voice instantly made them all freeze where they stood. "Who can explain to me what exactly is going on here?" Seeing Tia drooping her head, Karis hurriedly took her from her son's hands. Because she heard Karis's voice, Tia suddenly jolted awake, and in a daze she said that she was fine. If they did not believe her, she could even do a cat dance. After saying that, Tia started swaying as if she were drunk. Everyone present stared in complete astonishment. But before she could finish dancing, Tia collapsed to the ground with a thud. After examining her, the doctor said there was nothing serious wrong. She had simply fallen asleep. But immediately after that, the few words the doctor whispered in a low voice made Karis's heart leap into her throat again. Karis glared at the trio beside her. She ordered them to write self-reflection letters and hand them to her by tomorrow night. By evening, Zakar naturally also learned about the incident, and Tia's condition likewise made him frown deeply. After all, in order to stop the leopards from invading the residence, this catnip had been specially modified. Even inhaling a small amount would leave someone drunk for 4 full days, yet Tia was almost recovered after only half a day. Afterward, he called the drowsy Creed into the office. "I heard you've recently taken quite an interest in my daughter." Creed was very displeased. Being called over in the middle of the night was actually for this kind of matter. But aloud he still praised her, saying it was all because the young lady was too adorable. Naturally, Zakar did not believe him. He believed the other party must have noticed something, and had only then begun to act. So Zakar got straight to the point, and asked Creed to see whether the ancestors had left behind any clues. This was an ability passed down through the Fox clan from generation to generation. Foxes who completed the inheritance ceremony could see the records the previous generations had engraved into the spiritual world with magic. From those records, Creed guessed that Tia's identity might be related to the Divine Maiden. It was said that the power the Divine Maiden bestowed upon Icarus could only be passed to the first child, yet Tia's recovery ability was clearly also related to that special power. Afterward, Zakar opened the box containing the blue moon. According to Tia, she could see a warm aura emanating from the gem, and connecting that with the recent actions of someone deliberately approaching Tia, Zakar said that he had a task to entrust to Creed. Early the next morning, Tia woke up on the cushion. The moment she opened her eyes, she saw Karis looking utterly at ease. The girl instantly remembered all the absurd things she had done yesterday. Her face immediately turned pale with fright, but after the doctor's examination, it was discovered that Tia had already fully recovered. This recovery ability was nothing like what a little wolf should have. Tia's heart sank to the bottom at once. So many people had seen her collapse from catnip. What if everyone started treating her as a cat? And she had even bitten Eden's hand. Would he come later with a banner just to take revenge on her? She glanced uneasily at Karis. The other woman comforted her, saying, "It's very common for little wolves to get drunk from catnip, so you don't need to be too upset." Hearing that, Tia finally regained her spirits, and just as she was about to go to the training ground to practice, Creed suddenly called out to stop her. "This is hot milk with honey added. Please enjoy it, miss." After taking it, Tia thanked him. During this time, Creed had always been bringing her snacks, and when she thought about it carefully, it really was a little touching. However, Creed's next sentence made Tia spray out the milk before she could stop herself. "Lord Zakar has ordered me to escort Miss." As it turned out, this was an order Zakar had given last night in order to protect Tia. In addition, he also demanded that Creed must not develop romantic feelings toward Tia. He was not allowed to touch her hands or ears. He also could not speak to her for more than 3 sentences, and ideally, he should not even keep looking at her. And after Creed accepted the order, Zakar gave Elliot another order to investigate just what secrets that cat clan leader named Jarian was hiding. Not long ago, Tia was practicing archery at the training ground. At that moment, Creed came to report that the young master of the Vibus family had arrived. Creed had obviously also heard about how Tia bit the other person after inhaling catnip. These past few days, Tia had been trying to avoid Eden the whole time, but now there was no way to avoid him anymore, so she walked toward Eden with an uneasy heart, thinking to herself just how angry he must be to come to the training ground in person to find her. The girl nervously closed her eyes and apologized to Eden. If he wanted, she could let him bite her until he calmed down. However, the pain she had imagined never came. Eden merely gently patted Tia on the head. "You're not going to bite me? We'll talk about that later. But why are you afraid every time you see me? Do I really look like the kind of teacher who hits students?" Tia's eyes lit up. Eden had actually said that she was his student, but the very next second, her brother's warnings suddenly resurfaced in her mind. She absolutely could not let Eden think there was any special relationship between them. Could this be what people meant by a wolf's persistence? Eden smiled meaningfully and answered that it was not. After hearing that, Tia not only did not feel disappointed, but instead smiled happily. As long as it was something teacher said, she was willing to believe it. Eden stroked Tia's head and said gently, "If that's the case, then from now on, it's enough for you to bite only me. One day, I will teach you what a wolf's persistence really is." Only then did he notice the sneaky Creed beside them. "Who are you?" Creed introduced himself, saying that he was Creed, the guard ordered by Zakar to protect the young lady. As he spoke, he stepped in front of Tia. In other words, he was there to protect Miss from evil interference. Perhaps a guard was unnecessary in the residence, but this was the training ground, so please follow my instructions. The two of them confronted each other sharply, neither willing to give way. In the end, it was Tia who stepped in to smooth things over, saying that she was covered in sweat and needed to hurry and wash up before going to class. Eden took out his pocket watch and checked the time, reminding Tia not to be late. He did not notice at all that his body was already covered in white cat fur. When Tia saw it, she was so frightened she nearly lost her soul. She turned around and sprinted straight back to her room. After returning, Tia hurriedly told Gray that she was starting to shed. Gray comforted her and told her not to worry. In a little while, she would help the young lady tie up her hair properly. After that, Gray picked up a comb and helped Tia groom her fur. Before long, a thick layer had piled up on the floor. Gray said that all the animals in the residence had shedding seasons, so everyone probably would not mind too much. After having her hair tied up, Tia looked unbelievably adorable, but Gray felt that she still needed a suitable accessory to match. Meanwhile, in Eden's classroom, Theo and Devin were sitting in to observe under the excuse of being curious about Tia's course progress. For this, they had even finished their own lessons in advance. By the time Tia arrived at the classroom, it was not only her brothers whose eyes widened. Even Eden's eyes lit up. Tia looked just like an elf in this appearance. However, the very next second, the air was filled with drifting white fur. Devin could not help sneezing, although Theo comforted Tia and told her not to worry. As more and more fur kept falling, her brother's comfort only made Tia feel even guiltier. Tia told Eden that she wanted to take a day off. She wanted to go out and wander around for a bit. Theo had just been about to say they should all go together, but Tia stammeringly refused. Then she wrapped cloth around her head and quickly ran out of the room. Everywhere Tia passed, cat fur floated all around. And in response, she only left behind a single "I'm sorry" before fleeing in panic. She was already running so hard that she could barely catch her breath, and yet she still did not stop. In the past, she had never cared about shedding season, but now she finally realized that there was not a single animal here who would stand on the hillside overlooking Grywolf Manor the way she did. Tia could not help bursting into tears. Grywolf truly was just as she had first imagined, peaceful and full of delicious food. She could feel that everyone was sincerely cherishing her as this temporary family member. But all of this was something she had obtained through lies. The thought that she had been lying all this time to everyone who had been so good to her made Tia feel miserable beyond words. The girl sat there on the hillside, burying her face and crying out loud. Before she knew it, it was already evening. The people in the manor were still cleaning up the cat fur Tia had shed. It was the first time the brothers had seen a cat shed, and they could hardly believe it. Perhaps Tia had realized her own difference, and that was why she was so heartbroken. They asked the maid where Tia had gone. This was the famous dandelion hillside. Just as Theo was wondering why Tia had come here, they saw Tia at the highest point of the hillside, where the cold wind was sweeping recklessly across her body, blowing her fallen fur and the dandelion fluff together into the air. At that moment, the sight of Tia shedding tears in loneliness was deeply carved into Eden's heart. He understood that Tia was missing her mother, who was far away in heaven. This was not something he could interfere in, so Eden turned and left, and he stuffed a blanket into Devon's arms. "You two go and comfort her properly." Although it all felt a little baffling, the two of them did not think too much of it. But halfway there, Eden turned back to look at Tia again. She was being gently wrapped in the blanket by Devon and Theo. As Tia's teacher, he knew best that only the company of family could ease the loneliness in Tia's heart. But that was something he could not do. "Kitty, are you missing your mother very much?" Tia froze slightly. She must have been overheard while she was crying just now. "A little." Theo placed his hand on Tia's head and comforted her. "That's perfectly normal, because Tia's family must miss Tia very much too. And you're shedding right now, and no one could easily forget such soft, fluffy fur. So come back with everyone. We'll help Tia groom her fur properly." The girl was so moved that tears fell from her eyes. She was clearly just a temporarily adopted child. So why was everyone still being so gentle with her? Because you are a little sister. Even if it's only temporary, we're still family. Family members are supposed to take care of one another. Tia raised her head and looked toward the sky. She wanted to gaze at the stars a little longer, because she was a little wolf who understood romance. After that, the three of them returned to Grywolf Manor. As they neared the entrance, Tia hesitated. Could she really still go inside? Her fur had made the house a complete mess. However, when the door opened, the scene before her made the girl freeze in surprise. It was not only the decorations. Almost every place that could be changed had been turned white. And what moved Tia the most was that the maids had absolutely no intention of blaming her. Instead, they were worried about whether she had caught a chill outside. And just like that, Tia returned once again to the big Grywolf family. At night, Karis quietly came to Tia's room. All three had returned to their animal forms, and Tia was sleeping peacefully between her brothers. Seeing this, Karis finally let go of the worry weighing on her heart. In a voice that was almost trembling, she asked Zakar, "If our daughter were still alive, would it look like this too?" Looking at Tia's happy expression, Zakar nodded in agreement and gently wrapped an arm around Karis beside him. Over the next few days, Tia returned to her usual studies. Besides the most basic handwriting practice, Eden also began teaching her about the blue moon. At present, the beast folk still have not mastered the principle behind how the blue moon is activated. One reason is that what everyone has been studying all along is only an imitation blue moon. Tia recalled that Jarian also often mentioned the blue moon, but Zakar had clearly said that the real blue moon was in the leopard's hands, yet Jarian was closely connected to the leopards, which was truly very strange. Because 4 years ago, it was the leopards who drove the cats out of their original home, forcing them to live on barren land. And Mother had also said that, in order to protect the cat's safe evacuation, Jarian was the first to stand at the very front, which was how he naturally became the leader of the cat tribe. Seeing Tia lost in thought, Eden asked what she was thinking about. Tia was startled at once. "How did you know I was thinking about something?" After hesitating for a while, Tia asked Eden whether there was some connection between cats and the blue moon. That was almost beyond doubt, because the blue moon was a holy relic of the goddess, and cats were the animals that pulled the goddess's carriage. And these things had also been mentioned in the lullaby. Eden had once read in a book that some cats, while waiting for the goddess to appear, would use the same name for generation after generation. And the cats that pulled the goddess's carriage possessed immunity to the blue moon. For some reason, Tia felt that Eden was testing her. Are you very interested in cats? Eden explained that he had only discovered these things by chance while searching for a way to subdue the leopards. No wonder Eden had been full of hostility toward Tia as a cat when they first met. The leopards had found some way to use the blue moon, and the only animals immune to it were cats. So it was only natural that he had mistaken Tia for a spy. Suddenly, Tia thought, could it be that father and my brothers are special cats, and I inherited that power, which is why mother had me come to the wolf tribe? Thinking this, Tia asked Eden if he could do her a favor. Eden stared at the girl for a while. Do you trust me? Of course, Eden. Aren't you my teacher? That overly straightforward answer made Eden smile faintly. He reached out and gently stroked Tia's hair. You'll think that way in the future too, because among the people you trust, I'm the only one who can help you. So tell me, what do you want me to help you with? After talking with Tia, Eden immediately went to Zakhar's office. Hearing that Eden had something to discuss with him, Zakhar almost immediately guessed that it had something to do with Tia. Eden nodded. Tia told me about Jarian, the leader of the cat tribe. At those words, Zakhar's face was instantly filled with shock, as if he could not believe what he had just heard at all. Seeing this, Eden could not help asking, didn't you already know she was a cat? Zakhar paid no attention at all to what Eden had just said. His eyes were fixed on the boy before him. Tia had hidden her identity from everyone, yet she had told you, of all people. Eden said that that was indeed the case. Although Zakhar and Karis had already told them the truth beforehand, and had even threatened them not to treat Tia like a kitten, Eden felt that since everyone already knew anyway, it made little difference. And if he had really backed off because of that little threat, he might never have seen Tia flattering him and calling him teacher. At that thought, a smile unconsciously appeared at the corner of Eden's mouth. Zakhar sharply caught the change in his expression. What were you just thinking about? After that, the two finally got to the main point. So, what exactly did Tia tell you? When he learned that Jarian had also spoken about the blue moon, Zakhar's expression immediately turned grave. Logically speaking, the ones who should be immune to the blue moon were the cats who inherited the name Icarus. But Tia's situation was completely different. In her words, the blue moon was a gemstone that made people feel happy. Although there were still many things he could not understand, the most urgent task was to confirm first whether Jarian was also immune to the blue moon. Eden stood up, preparing to leave. His task was only to pass on Tia's words, and as for what should be done next, he believed that with Zakhar's judgment, he would certainly be able to handle it properly. Suddenly, Zakhar stopped him. If Tia says anything else after this, remember to tell me. At that moment, the happy scene of Tia together with Theo and Devin appeared in Eden's mind. So, he revealed another piece of information to Zakhar. Meanwhile, quite a few subordinates were waiting outside the door. Elliot was holding the materials he was supposed to report today. Suddenly, Zakhar rushed out of the room. Then, he hurried away in great haste. Secretary. He called out to Elliot as he was leaving. His expression was solemn, and he was still holding a thick notebook in his hand. I have something urgent to discuss. I'm going to Karis's office first. Hearing this, Elliot instantly became tense. Could it be that they were finally going to begin strategic discussions targeting the leopards? At this moment, Karis was still organizing documents, but a burst of commotion suddenly came from outside the door. The next moment, Zakhar pushed the door open and strode in. Karis, I have something urgent to discuss with you. Sensing the unusual atmosphere, Karis immediately stood up and began flipping through the notebook Zakhar handed her. As the pages of the notebook were turned one by one, Karis's expression also became more and more serious. This is what I wanted to discuss with you. When do you think it would be convenient? Do you even need to ask?
Of course now.
We'll carry it out immediately. Seeing this, Elliot, outside the door, became even more nervous. He truly could not figure out what kind of matter could make both of them look so serious. Suddenly, Elliot was called by name. From now on, all the knights staying in Grywolf are to devote themselves to preparations for next week's schedule. Then next week's schedule is... Zakhar's expression was grave. Our little darling kitty will be turning 7 next week. At those words, Elliot's face went completely blank, and for a long while he could not say a single word. Was this the so-called serious matter? That evening, while the family was eating in the dining room, Tia sat between her brothers as usual. But this time, it was not the food that drew her attention. Because of the recent shedding season, whether it was Lady Karis or Zakhar, or even Eden, all of them had beautiful wolf fur scarves draped over their shoulders. Only Tia's shoulders were empty. Suddenly, Karis spoke, startling Tia with a jolt. Kitty, I heard your birthday is next week, is that right? Tia looked completely confused. How had everyone learned about it after only half a day? After class today, her brothers had happened to come to the classroom to play with her. So Tia suggested that they play with a yarn ball made from her fur. But then she suddenly remembered that wolves probably did not play with yarn balls. Tia hurriedly made up an excuse, saying that someone had told her before that a yarn ball actually symbolized that she was about to turn 7. Hearing this, her brothers immediately became excited. They instantly pressed Tia for the exact date of her birthday. With no way out, Tia had no choice but to tell them. But she had never imagined that in only half a day, the matter would already have spread everywhere. Then Karis asked Tia what she wanted as a birthday gift. Tia was just about to refuse. Her life was already very good now, so there was no need to specially give her gifts. But before she could say the words, the looks from the two parents stopped her. Every little wolf wants gifts, and every little wolf wants a grand party. That is simply a little wolf's instinct. Hearing this from the side, Eden could not help smiling. This family truly doted on Tia without limit. So Tia proposed that she wanted some weaving supplies. Theo asked in confusion whether Tia wanted to make something. Tia told him no. She just wanted to practice basic skills in advance for her life after the fostering arrangement ended in the future. Devin urged Tia to think of some other gifts too, clothes, jewels, and things like that would also be fine. Theo agreed as well. If she could not use them for the time being, she could always sell them later. But Tia still did not accept, because those things were, in the end, all part of the Grywolf family's wealth. Karis and Zakar exchanged a glance. After that, silence fell over the dining table once again. Suddenly, Eden let out a soft laugh. I never taught you to worry about things like this, yet you learned it pretty quickly yourself. Karis then asked Tia whether, aside from gifts, there was anything else she wanted to do. Tia thought seriously for a while. She wanted to go see the commercial street outside. She had previously looked at it from afar with her brothers on the hillside, and it had seemed like a pretty nice place. But the two brothers gave each other sly smiles. They began coaxing Tia, saying that the outside was countless times more fun than the manor. Sure enough, Tia happily agreed. Karis immediately understood. If that's the case, then buy everything visible in the commercial street. And remember to bring the first night order along as guards. Since they would also have to carry the gifts, it would be best to bring the second night order as well. At last, the day of Tia's birthday arrived. As soon as Tia woke up, she went to the place where portraits of her parents were enshrined. Today was her birthday, and she wanted to tell her family that she had safely grown to 7 years old and had missed them all this time. She placed a gentle kiss on the button, and in her mind appeared warm scenes of living together with her family. When she came outside, Elliot and Creed had already been waiting for a long time. Both of them were sincerely happy for Tia's birthday. Tia responded to them and, holding Elliot's hand, boarded the carriage. The moment she entered, Tia was startled by the party poppers her brothers set off. Congratulations, Tia. Happy birthday. The two of them kissed and hugged Tia. Who would have thought that our Lil Soft would be 7 in the blink of an eye? Suddenly, Tia noticed that her teacher Eden was actually in the carriage too. Eden explained that he only wanted to make sure Tia would not skip class. In that case, then hurry up and wish me a happy birthday, or I'm not listening to class today. Seeing that Eden still did not speak, Tia broke out in a cold sweat from nervousness and hurriedly gave in, saying she had only been joking. Before long, the Grywolf family's carriage set off and left the manor. Karis and Zakar stood on the balcony, watching the procession gradually disappear into the distance, hoping that this time Tia would be able to buy more things she liked. Aside from the button on the clothes she had when she first arrived, nothing else seemed to interest her. After saying that, Karis took out a pair of scissors from her person. At dinner yesterday, you probably noticed too that Tia really wanted wolf fur decorations, didn't she? If Tia alone did not have one, she would surely feel left out. With an expression as if facing death, Zakar recalled Tia's expression from yesterday. Then he transformed into a giant wolf and let Karis cut the fur from his body. Not long before, the Grywolf procession had entered the commercial street. Tia threw herself to the window and looked at the lively crowd of wolves on the street, finding it especially novel. Creed spoke up to remind her, "But miss, aren't you a wolf too?" At those words, Tia's whole body instantly stiffened. At that moment, the carriage stopped. Elliot instructed everyone to wait in the carriage while he went to disperse the crowd first. Tia glanced out the window and noticed that everyone seemed especially curious about the carriage. Her brothers explained that everyone had probably come especially to see Tia. Hearing that, Tia waved hello to the children outside the window, who looked about her age. The next moment, however, Eden drew the curtain shut and instructed Tia on what she should pay attention to while shopping. Tia excitedly asked Eden, "Excuse me, how do you shop?" As soon as she said that, everyone froze. Could it be that Tia had never gone shopping before? Tia thought back seriously, because father and her brothers often went out on missions, and mother also always worked late. Things like clothes had all been prepared for her by mother and the neighbors. Helpless, Eden could only tell Tia to inform Elliot whenever she saw something she liked. It would then be charged to the Grywolf family's account. Creed, acting as a guard, also added a few precautions. If she sensed the aura of the blue moon while shopping, she was to lower herself immediately and silently count backward from 100 in her heart. That amount of time would be just enough for the knights to capture the people driven mad by the blue moon. Also, if the source was far away, She should remember to use a shout to tell them the location. At last, Elliot finished making arrangements and opened the carriage door. "Then, miss, you may begin shopping now." The sight of Theo holding Tia's hand as she got out of the carriage caused quite a stir among the surrounding people. It seemed that Miss was already getting along extremely well with the young masters. Even the young master of the Vibus family was there. At that moment, an old man muttered quietly, "But even so, in the end, she still isn't a wolf." The people around him were so frightened that they immediately covered his mouth. "Have you forgotten Lady Karis's instructions?" Under everyone's gaze, Tia walked along the street. Everyone wore smiles on their faces and applauded to welcome Tia's arrival. Tia, too, was moved by this warmth and waved in response. But she did not know that all of this had actually been arranged in advance by Karis and Zakar. After that, the first place Tia visited was a weaving supply shop. Looking at the dazzling array of yarn balls in all kinds of colors, Tia's eyes shone brightly with excitement, and she could not help letting out repeated exclamations of amazement. Her brothers asked whether she liked them all, and Tia nodded while letting her gaze move back and forth among the yarn balls. But choosing a single favorite from among them was simply too difficult. Devon shot Elliot a look from not far away. When Tia finally picked out one ball of yarn and was about to leave, Elliot immediately ordered the knights to empty out the entire shop. At the same time, a group of people in black robes were secretly observing every move of the group. Who would have thought that in order to protect that adorable young lady, the wolf tribe had actually sent so many knights? Tia's special nature immediately caught the woman's attention. In her hand, she held an imitation blue moon. If you, who have been corroded by the blue moon's frenzy, approach that cat, then logically speaking, you should feel intense pain. But if she is not affected, then kidnap her. The black-robed people affected by the blue moon had pain written all over their faces and had no room to refuse. At this moment, Tia and her brothers were immersed in the joy of shopping. They had absolutely not noticed that several men in black were steadily drawing closer from the crowd behind them. Creed was the first to notice that something was wrong. He sensed a faint frenzy drawing near them. Elliot signaled for the subordinate knights to act immediately. However, by this time, the men in black had already come close enough to affect Tia. But what no one expected was that what Tia felt was not pain at all, but joy. Seeing this, Elliot and Creed could not help freezing in place. They had never heard of anyone becoming happy after being affected by frenzy. Just then, Elliot locked onto the location of the black-clad figures in the crowd. Working together with Creed's magic, the knights subdued them on the spot. As for the true mastermind, she was hidden among the crowd. After seeing what had just happened, she could barely suppress the joy in her heart and nearly laughed out loud. She had never heard of a cat reacting like this. Sure enough, Grywolf could not possibly have taken in an ordinary cat. Afterward, the woman turned and left, preparing to report this news to her superior. Meanwhile, Creed was just about to confirm the other side's identity. But when he lifted the masks, he froze on the spot. Without a single exception, all of these beast folk controlled by the blue moon were foxes. At this moment, Tia had also finished counting down. The moment she opened her eyes, she saw Creed trembling all over, his face pale. Just as she was wondering what had happened, a fox beast man suddenly broke free from Creed's restraint. He charged straight at Tia. Only Devon noticed the danger and tried to protect her, but it was already too late. The other party swiftly snatched Tia away and leaped into the air. Seeing this, Elliot immediately ordered the knights to pursue. But the other party was, after all, a fox beast man. After taking to the air with magic, he quickly widened the distance between himself and the knights. Tia panicked at once. If this kept up, the knights might not be able to find her. Suddenly, she remembered that Creed had said she could use a cry to communicate her location. But the man saw right through Tia's thoughts and let out a mocking laugh. "Are you thinking of making a cat's cry? I know you're just a stray cat. You were driven out of your territory for stealing food." Even so, Tia still shouted loudly because if she did nothing now, she really would be taken away. The next moment, the man was instantly struck down from midair. From within the smoke, two figures slowly emerged. Tia opened her eyes and found herself lying in Karis's arms. "Thanks to your scream, we were able to get here in time to save you." Sure enough, now that you're 7, even your scream is much louder than before. Zakar dragged the fox beast man over, but for some reason, his hair had clearly become much thinner. "We only trimmed a little fur. Does it scare you?" Tia desperately shook her head in denial, but failed to notice that her expression had already given her away. At this moment, her brothers also hurried over. The first thing they did was check whether Tia was hurt anywhere. Elliot then apologized to Tia guiltily. "I will thoroughly interrogate those foxes and never let the same thing happen again." And thankfully, Milady was brave enough to cry out. Thinking back to the fox beastman's words calling her a wildcat, Tia felt a strange stab of pain in her heart. "Because I'm a wolf, it's no big deal." Seeing that Tia seemed frightened, Karis gave her the wolf fur scarf ahead of time. When Tia saw the beautiful wolf fur scarf, She was at a loss for a moment. Karis explained that because she could tell Tia really wanted it, she had decided to make it Tia's birthday gift. Only then did Tia understand why Zakar's hair had become shorter. Looking at that noticeably thinner fur, she could not help tugging at the thick wolf fur on her body. Tia suddenly choked up. "What's wrong, kitty? Don't you like this gift?" Karis's concern shattered the last line of defense in Tia's heart. Tears streamed uncontrollably from her eyes. A bad child like me doesn't deserve such a wonderful gift at all. Everyone hurried forward anxiously to comfort her, as if trying to stop Tia from continuing. But Tia still spoke the truth through her tears. "Because my mother is a cat and my father, my brothers, and I are all cats too. At that time, there was another child in mother's belly. Because we had already been starving for several days, I secretly took some food from the granary. But in the end, mother and I were still driven out together. I'm truly sorry. I lied to you and said I was a wolf. I don't deserve such a wonderful gift at all." Tia closed her eyes in despair and spoke word by word. "Even if I'll be driven away, I don't want to keep lying to you gentle wolves anymore. I don't want to keep deceiving you just to avenge my family." Karis called out Tia's name in a voice that was almost trembling. Just when Tia thought she would be scolded and cast out, what fell first was Karis's warm embrace. "You don't need to say anymore. We took you in not because you were a little wolf. It was simply because that day, you came before us dragging your exhausted body, and that is why we made that decision. Kitty's mother did nothing wrong. Parents will always do whatever it takes to protect their children. It was just that, in those circumstances, no one could do anything. So you don't need to feel guilty at all." While comforting Tia, the knot Karis had carried in her heart for many years also gradually began to loosen. "Thank goodness you're safe. Happy birthday." Tia smiled brightly through her tears. After that, Karis carried Tia and continued strolling through the shopping street. The two brothers were very dissatisfied that their mother had Tia all to herself. At this moment, Tia was suddenly drawn by the commotion behind her. Following the sound, she saw that Zakar was scolding Creed over Tia's attack. "Even if the leopards turned the fox beast men into pawns, you still should have done what you were supposed to do. If you hesitate every time something like this happens, then we wolves won't be able to help the foxes either." Every word from Zakar weighed heavily on Creed. These fox beast men who had been manipulated and driven mad were all, just a few months ago, members of his own kind who had been captured while covering his escape. Creed desperately suppressed the guilt in his heart. To save his tribesmen, he had to obtain the wolves' help. "I'm sorry. I was the one who put Milady in danger. I will definitely work harder from now on." Elliot stepped forward carefully to plead for him. If it hadn't been for Creed, we would never have discovered that faint trace of frenzy. Of course, those words did not change Zakar's decision. Tia saw all of Creed's appearance clearly. Though he seemed slick-tongued, he actually cherished his own people more than anyone. Tia asked Karis whether Creed would be punished. Karis's attitude was firm. "You almost got hurt because of this. This matter can't simply be let go." The next moment, a soft voice came from her arms as Tia opened her eyes and pleaded, "But today is my birthday. I don't want to see anyone punished." Karis stared at Tia for quite a while. Then she carried her toward Zakar. After Elliot's reminder, Zakar turned to look at Tia in confusion. That fierce face frightened the girl badly. But Tia still gathered her courage and pleaded for Creed. "You don't want him to be punished? Because Creed already did very well. If someone important to me became my enemy, I would hesitate too." Hearing this, Zakar cast an unreadable glance at Creed behind him. "Pretend I never said any of that just now." After saying that, the group left Creed where he stood and walked away. Just as Creed was still stunned, Tia poked her head out and softly said thank you to him. Creed nodded blankly. Could it be that Miss Cat was actually thinking of me? Ever since Creed came to Grywolf, he had believed that all kindness and concern were merely transactions between races. But now, Tia's pure goodwill touched the deepest part of his heart for some reason, and before he knew it, Creed had revealed his fox ears. And Eden, who witnessed all this from not far away, felt inexplicably displeased. After returning to the Grywolf mansion, everyone immediately prepared a birthday party for Tia. The unprecedentedly large cake made Tia's eyes shine. Suddenly, a familiar scent caught Tia's attention. There was even the soup that only appeared on Kat's birthdays. When she learned that Karis had specially instructed the kitchen to prepare it, Tia's nose instantly stung. She drank the bowl of cat soup, filled with happiness, one sip at a time. At this moment, her brothers also brought out the birthday gifts they had prepared. When she opened them, she found 3 little piggy banks inside. So that Tia could have her own pocket money, her good brothers had already put quite a few gold coins into them beforehand. But Tia did not know that. Can piggy banks really make money by themselves? Devin immediately began talking nonsense. Because pigs always eat little but grow quickly, as long as you put a little money inside, it can turn into even more money. Tia was still half doubtful, so she asked Eden whether it was true. Although Eden was annoyed with the twins, he still played along with the act. After all, this is a wolf den. If the little pig knows that, it will work hard to make money on its own. Feeling the piggy bank's fear, Tia hurriedly comforted it. These are all good wolves here. They won't force you to hand over your money. At this moment, Eden also brought out the gift he had prepared. The hat inside was the same kind as the one Tia had lost when she was abducted not long ago. "Didn't you just lose one earlier? Happy birthday." Tia happily put the hat on right then and there. At the same time, everyone in the Grywolf family cast unfriendly looks at Eden, and they all decided they would definitely be on guard against him in the future. After dinner, Karis changed Tia into the new clothes tailored for her a few days earlier, and she invited a painter to paint a portrait for them. That portrait was later hung in the center of the mansion. Although the picture showed 2 adult wolves, 2 wolf cubs, and 1 cat, no matter how one looked at it, it was a warm and harmonious family. After Tia celebrated her 7th birthday, the Grywolf household became busy once again. In order to understand the power contained within Tia, Karis and Zakar decided to use Unlucky Elliot for an experiment. They tied Elliot to a chair, then forcibly drove him into madness using an imitation blue moon. Judging by Elliot's strength and the effect of the blue moon imitation, he should have remained under the influence of frenzy for at least a week, but what the couple cared about most was still Tia's safety. "Kitty, if you feel any discomfort at all, or if your head hurts, tell me immediately. I will take you away from here at once." Tia looked toward Elliot. A warm and gentle light was slowly spreading out from his body. Just by approaching him so simply, Elliot's condition had already improved noticeably. Seeing this, Karis could hardly believe her own eyes. At this moment, Tia said she wanted to get a little closer, so Karis carried Tia and carefully walked toward Elliot. The girl gently placed her hand on Elliot's head. Elliot, whose eyes had been vacant just moments before, instantly regained his senses. There was no discomfort, no sign of a headache, and he even felt that he was in better condition than before being infected by the frenzy. Tia said that when she had just placed her hand on him, that warm light had vanished all at once. To be safe, Karis asked about the password they had agreed on beforehand. Elliot thought carefully for a moment. Was it the part about introducing me to a beautiful and kind she-wolf? As soon as he finished speaking, Karis directly ignored him and turned to praise Tia for possessing extremely powerful abilities. This way, in the future, they would be able to directly disperse the frenzy from beast men affected by Blue Moon. This was an ability that had never been recorded in any book before. Perhaps this was the special power Tia's mother had spoken of. As soon as her mother was mentioned, Tia's mood sank again. Did she really have the ability to stop the leopard's plan? Karis did her best to give Tia confidence, but this matter absolutely could not be revealed publicly with ease, because the stronger the power, the easier it was to become a target. The reason Elliot had been asked to help with the experiment today was also because he was trustworthy. At this moment, Tia remembered that fox beast man from before. Karis told her not to worry. Thanks to Kitty's power, the other party had regained consciousness, and now his body was slowly recovering. He had also started providing us with information one after another. It's just that no one knows whether it's because of Creed that he's willing to cooperate like this. After hearing this, Tia excitedly said that she wanted to go save the remaining fox beast men so that she could win the fox's affection. Maybe when she grew up, she would even go settle in fox territory. The moment those words fell, Karis and Zakar both went silent. The two of them moved in front of Tia in perfect unison and earnestly urged her to think carefully. There was no place in the world more suitable for living than Grywolf, and even if she became independent in the future, she absolutely had to settle down here. Under the overwhelming pressure from the two of them, Tia could only obediently nod. A few days later, Grywolf welcomed the first snow of the year. By custom, at the end of the year the wolf pack would go to the central training grounds to hold a memorial ceremony for the wolves who had died. Tia and her brothers were left at home. Suddenly, Tia remembered that Eden's mother also seemed to have died because of a leopard attack. The girl turned and walked toward the kitchen. The maids introduced today's delicious salmon sandwiches to her. Although they sounded delicious, Tia held back and only asked for a cup of milk and a bag of cookies. After the maids finished baking the cookies, Tia thanked them and was just about to leave, but a maid suddenly stopped her. "Miss, there's a hair stuck to your clothes." The girl did not think much of it and waved goodbye to the other party. What she did not know was that the maid had another purpose in taking her hair. That person was none other than Sigma, the leopard's second in command, and the mastermind who had tried to abduct Tia not long ago. Tia knocked on the door and said, "It's Kitty. Is Teacher Eden here?" When Eden came out of the room, Tia, who had just been full of delight, instantly froze. Eden's eyes were red. Clearly, he had cried not long before. At the thought that Eden was upset, Tia felt distressed as well. Left with no choice, Eden had to carry Tia into the room. If Theo and Devin saw them, they would come looking for trouble with him again. Eden handed Tia a handkerchief. "I wasn't crying, so you don't need to cry either." Then Tia handed over the cookies. Eden stared at the bag of cookies for quite a while before asking, "Did you give this to that guy Creed too?" Though Tia was a little puzzled, she still explained, "Creed went with the adults to the Central Martial Grounds early this morning, so this portion was specially prepared for Eden." Apparently very satisfied with that answer, Eden gradually relaxed. "I'll eat it later.
You can go now.
But what if you cry again after I leave?" "I told you I wasn't crying. Ever since your identity was exposed, you've gotten bolder and bolder, but the corners of your eyes are still wet." Tia's words completely shattered Eden's final psychological defense. He wiped the corners of his eyes with the back of his hand, then sat there without saying a word. Seeing how upset Eden was, Tia decided to comfort him seriously. She gently leaned her head against Eden's shoulder and carefully asked about Eden's mother. Eden only remembered that his mother had been a genius among the wolves, so he also wanted to inherit his mother's title of genius. Although his memories had already become somewhat blurry, when he was little, his mother had read many books to him. Later, his mother died in a leopard attack. This was the first time Tia had heard Eden talk about himself. She too had once gone through that same hollow and painful time. Thinking of this, Tia suddenly jumped up and hugged Eden. Mother said that at times like this, doing this would make people feel a little better. "Next year, I will stay by teacher's side too." Eden gently stroked Tia. "What about the year after that?" "I'll still be there the year after that. In the future, I will always stay with you." What Tia had actually meant was until she came of age and left the estate. But Eden clearly did not take those words as a joke. "You said that yourself, you'll always stay with me. In the future, promises like that can only be made to me alone." Tia did not understand how seriously wolves regarded promises, so she happily nodded and agreed. From that moment on, the way Eden looked at Tia became increasingly gentle. The next day, Grywolf was covered in thick white snow. Tia and her brothers played in the courtyard. While they were playing in the snow, Eden stayed alone in his room reading. Whenever it snowed in the past, Tia would build a snowman with her mother. This year, in order to do the same thing as usual, Tia and her brothers built the Grywolf family together. At the end, Tia built a tiny version of herself too, and placed it in the middle of the 4 large snowmen. At the moment Karis hugged her and said she had long known she was a cat, Tia had already believed that that place had always belonged to her. That evening, the moment Karis and Zakar returned home, their eyes were immediately drawn to those conspicuous snowmen. When Karis saw that tiny snowman, she instinctively thought it was Tia, but when she walked closer and saw clearly, she realized that the tiny snowman was not shaped like a cat. It turned out that what Tia had made was her deceased daughter. Just as Karis was sinking into sadness, Tia's call interrupted her. Karis asked in confusion what Tia still wanted to do so late at night. The girl explained excitedly that she could not sleep, so she wanted to come out and continue building snowmen. "My brothers and I made all these snowmen together. Does Lady Karis like them?" Seeing the tears glimmering in the corners of Karis's eyes, Tia threw herself into Karis's arms. The warmth in her body seemed to touch the softest part of Karis's heart little by little. After a brief moment of astonishment, Karis asked Tia whether she missed her mother. Tia nodded in admission, but when she missed her mother, she would not cry, because if she were not strong, her mother would worry. Hearing this, Karis's tears could no longer be stopped. She could not help wondering whether her own daughter, who had died so young, would also have been this warm, and whether she too would have said such thoughtful words to her. She had left her own child alone in such a cold place. Did she really have the right to monopolize these happy and warm moments? If she could, she truly wished time would stop at this very moment forever. However, things did not go as she wished. After living a stable and happy life for a while, Tia learned to read with her brother's help. Eden got into a carriage and returned to his own territory, and Creed became the leader of the Fox Beast Men. After spending a carefree year with her brothers, they too went to the central martial grounds to continue tempering their skills. Before she knew it, Tia was the only one left in the Grywolf household. Tia endured the loneliness brought by parting as best she could, and resolutely began to improve her own strength. Soon, time advanced to 10 years later, when several cloaked people caused a disturbance in the shopping district. One of them set his target on an unarmed rabbit beast man. At the critical moment, a girl appeared and blocked the attack. That person was none other than the 17-year-old Katia. At this moment, Elliot and the knights had also arrived. While Elliot was fighting the intruders, Tia first asked about the rabbit beastman's injuries. They had long heard of Tia. Thanks to her, weak beast men like them were able to settle safely in Grywolf. Tia explained that this had actually all been Zakar and Karis's decision. Fortunately, neither of you was hurt. Only then did Tia notice that the rabbit beast man was carrying a child. At that instant, Tia was stirred by memories of the past. Her mother's image surfaced in her mind once again. Thankfully, this time, she had succeeded in protecting them. Afterward, Elliot tied up all the troublemaking intruders. Tia extended her hand toward them, and a warm magic instantly spread out. Before long, these intruders regained their calm. Next, as long as these people were loaded onto the carriage, everything would be over. Seeing the scene, The surrounding crowd began to discuss it among themselves. Back when she first went shopping 10 years ago, she was as cute as a little fairy. If no one said it, nobody would believe that Miss Tia is a cat. Even Elliot found it a little hard to believe. That timid and immature little cat miss had now transformed into someone as brave and confident as a wolf. However, Tia still liked salmon as much as ever. At the same time, Elliot noticed that Tia's charm had already affected most of the wolf clan, yet she herself seemed completely unaware of it. Perhaps cats were different from wolves and could not instinctively sense romantic feelings from the opposite sex. Thinking of this, Elliot solemnly reminded Tia, although it's unconscious, Milady must never become a heartbreaker. This is advice for you from me, an outstanding wolf with a rich romantic history. Also, Milady should be careful about how much time she spends alone with Eden and Creed. Tia could not understand it at all. They were both her good friends, and her brothers were not by her side anyway, so there were hardly any other people around her to begin with. I know all that, of course, but you're already grown up now, so you should still avoid being alone with them for long periods as much as possible. Watching Tia nod gloomily in agreement, Elliot began earnestly advising her again. Tia only felt that he was worrying for nothing. Now Eden was busy with the ceremony to inherit the position of family head, and Creed was also managing the Fox squad, so neither had time. She herself also had to start preparing for the future, and also to avenge her mother by finding Jerian, the one who killed her. Lord Zakar said that after they returned, he would tell her the story of her father and brothers. Perhaps from that, she would also learn what kind of connection Blue Moon truly had with her.